You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WYBC. I hope you have had an excellent Labor Day weekend because we hit the ground running. First and foremost, President Trump announced this afternoon that the United States Navy sunk a cartel ship in the Caribbean. According to the president, earlier this morning, on my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. TDA is a designated foreign terrorist organization operating under the control of Nicolas Maduro, responsible for mass murder, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and acts of violence and terror across the United States and Western Hemisphere. So pretty big stuff right out of the gate. Trump accusing Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela and that communist socialist hellhole, of also being the guy who essentially runs Tren de Aragua. And then the president goes into a little bit more detail. The strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters, transporting illegal narcotics heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. Please let this serve as notice to anybody even thinking about bringing drugs into the USA. Beware. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then Secretary of State Marco Rubio reiterated this lethal strike in the southern Caribbean against the drug vessel he said had departed from Venezuela and then, of course, operated by the narco-terrorist organization Tren de Aragua, the Cartel of the Sun, those kind of crews. And Pete Hegseth, in very classic Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth fashion, then just moves forward to drop a video of the strike itself. And it's pretty fantastic. Here you go. Now, there's no audio to this. And I'm sorry, seeing terrorists blown up at sea, pirates blown up at sea, again, one of the oldest traditions of the U.S. Navy, I thought needed a little bit of extra music. So we did this for you.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of four.
So you can see the packages of what are likely cocaine in the middle of the boat. And the individuals who are operating it, you can see a small, what appears to be some kind of a rifle by one of the guys in the longboat. And things don't turn out too well.
Got millions of free child place holidays available with 22 kilograms of baggage included.
Boom! Look at the smoke trail. That's about 60 degrees, 70 degrees. Boom, right into the middle of the boat.
But now, with Jet2 holidays.
I love it. I do. Oh, man, there's nothing that makes me happier than watching terrorists just evaporate. Producer Nick?
Do you think the commercial was accurate? It was 22 kilograms of package dropped on that ship.
Hey, we do our research here, the Tony Kinnett Cast. If a meme just happens to line up with exactly what's going on, that's part of the service that we deliver to you. Now, this brings us over to some of the rest of the country. There's a lot of mewling and whining, by the way, at this. Oh, the Trump administration, it's becoming so dictatorial. People complaining about Washington, D.C., and how the Trump administration is doing things like protecting federal buildings and, claiming there's going to be no elections forever and he's going to invade American cities. Oh, man, it's going to be horrible and terrible. Mayor Brandon Johnson is not a guy who is willing to sit there and wait for Gavin Newsom to steal all of the credit and the hair gel. And so Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, who has an approval rating of 3, he steps in front of the country to do a little bit of rallying. He's going to rally the citizens of Chicago, or Chirac as we call it here in the state of Indiana, to do a little bit of rising up against the Trump administration. Check it out.
Are you prepared to defend this land that was built by slaves, a land that was built by indigenous people?
All right, he's doing a little bit of preaching here, so let's see. We got a little bit of hype organ music here, don't we?
A land that is built by workers. Are you prepared to defend this land? The people united will always prevail. I need you all to stand firm, to stand strong. wrong if this president decides to continue to break this Constitution.
I love it. Sometimes you just need a little bit of organ in the background. You got to get up there and preach in front of the rest of the country. Now, of course, you and I both know that all of what he's saying is completely ridiculous. Nothing the Trump administration has done so far is in any way, shape, or form illegal. And we're going to get to the Judge Goober McGoober out of, I believe, California, the Bill Clinton appointee, who tried to issue a little injunction regarding California. But I don't want to get ahead of myself because Brandon Johnson, he put on a spectacular show. Now, you may have been impressed with his knockoff Baptist, Southern Baptist style preaching right there. But when he's not inciting violence, he's also saying in the city of Chicago over and over and over and over again.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago.
By the way, he does realize that Navy Pier is in Chicago, yes? No militarized forces in Chicago. My brother in Christ, the Navy is in Chicago. The Coast Guard is in Chicago. The Illinois National Guard has a northern headquarters in Chicago. But sorry, the in Chicago's. He's got a few more of them.
We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago. We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago.
So for those on the millennial side of things and lower, there's a clip in the older seasons of SpongeBob in which he's giving a speech about accepting the role of hall monitor, and I swear this sounds exactly the same.
Hall monitor SpongeBob reporting for duty, ma'am. I'm ready to assume my position in the hall. I will protect all that are weak in the hall. All rules will be enforced in the hall.
It's just Brandon Johnson saying the same thing. In the city of Chicago. In the city. It's like, where do they find these people? Where do they find? I mean, the charisma talent pool in the Democrat Party is so abysmal at this point in time. I don't know what to do for them. They don't know what to do for them. Then he decides to do what every single excellent blue mayor does, and he blames it on a red state. Now, Ilhan Omar, in her infinite Somali brother marrying wisdom, she suggested that Indiana's not too far from Minnesota. That's where the guns are coming from. Brandon Johnson, a bit closer, also suggests that you know, the reason that, you know, these shootings are happening in Chicago, because they really can't ignore it, is because all the guns are coming from red states. Oh.
2 or 3 more new guns come into our city. Chicago will continue to have a violence problem as long as red states continue to have a gun problem.
Now let's talk about that real quick here. According to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, trace and report data from the city of Chicago, right now, the number of guns seized, the total amount year to year, about 19 to 20% of those guns come from the state of Indiana. The majority of those guns that come from the state of Indiana were not legally purchased in the first place, which means that they are violating the law either way. So if we're looking at the statistics, the vast majority of gun seizures in Chicago have nothing to do with the Hoosier state, but they will keep trying this over and over. And then he says what has to be one of the most wild and bizarre lines ever that is a campaign gift to Republicans.
Shootings will continue as long as this presidential administration continues to put politics
ahead of everything else. Okay, boys, girls, and everyone else in the room. If you are the mayor of a city with the worst reputation for gun violence in the country, saying the shootings will continue until the leadership stops being political is one of the wildest, most idiotic things that can come out of your face hole. And do you know who pointed out the incredible folly of Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago's statements? CNN's Brianna Kaler just earlier this morning. Check it out.
Chicago did experience a particularly brutal Labor Day weekend. Police say 56 people were shot, 7 were killed. But across the board, crime is still down compared to last year.
Crimes, crimes down. Sure, they're grouping crimes, by large category. But I mean, hey, yeah, sure. A couple, 50 some people die. What is that? So radio crew, we're going to send you guys over to commercial and continue things over on the live stream side of things. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, I can't help but, then go into the large whale of a man, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who was confronted by a reporter about the rampant crime. Because again, he's going on this crusade talking about how wonderful Illinois schools are and how they're doing such a wonderful job and these Republicans are all idiots. But again, he presides over a city that has some of the highest gross amounts of gun violence in the country. And the city from which the Thompson got its nickname, the Chicago typewriter. And Pritzker's response to the reporter calling him on this as they're romantically strolling along the trash-ridden beach of Chicago and Lake Michigan together. This is his response.
You're going to hear people, especially this past weekend, 54 shot, 7 dead. Yeah. They're going to say the city's not safe. Would you ask your friends to ride the L after midnight or after, 9 o'clock at night even to come down to the city from O'Hare?
Look, big cities have crime. There's no doubt about it.
Well,
let's just pay attention to what President Trump is doing.
I'm sorry. You don't get to say thoughts and prayers are not enough. You don't get to say that whenever Republicans address a tragedy, they say, we're going to take a moment, we're going to pray for the victims, we're going to do everything we can for their families, and then they begin looking at the causes, things like the mental health crisis, the transgender crisis, etc. You don't get to look at a situation that you have just criticized the Republicans over and then say, well, you're going to have a big city, you're going to have some crime, you're going to get a little shot on the L train, come on. We all remember that part of The Fugitive when Dr. Kimball comes home to Chicago. Tommy Lee Jones goes, you probably get shot after midnight on the L train. That's just been a part of American culture forever. Come on. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So incredible stuff. Incredible stuff from the left on that. But of course, this is the man who has decided right now that the entire focus should be on the immigration issue. Because again, it's not about the, narco violence. It's not about the rampant crime. Well, it's because, as Pritzker puts it, the skin color is a little bit off.
Care if you're here and undocumented. They just care if your skin color is a little off of theirs. And that you're Latino, they're going to just target you.
Hold on, did you just say Latino? First of all, that's very gendered language. I was told it's Latinx or Latinx or indigenous whatever. Nonsense. But I guess we're glossing over that now. I'm sorry, we're going to have to remove 2 stripes from the Pride Progress flag as a penalty.
Without knowing anything. By the way, does anybody in this room walk around with citizenship papers?
Dude, the last time you were seen walking around, you were being told that the number of shootings were insanely high and you brushed it off. Shut your big, large, food-sucking mouth. But again, that governor of Illinois, just the classic maneuver here is not just limited to Illinois' governor. Wisconsin's Democrat governor, Tony Evers, he did the same kind of nonsense, suggesting that the entire Wisconsin economy would collapse if you deported illegal immigrants, which is insane.
I believe that in Wisconsin, our ability to keep our undocumented people working like they are now at a really high numbers in the state of Wisconsin.
That's a wild thing to say, by the way. Our slave labor, which by the way is some very efficient slave labor.
If he takes this to a improper end, our economy will be gone.
I'm sorry. I spent a good amount of my time, a good amount of my life, in fact, in Wisconsin. None of that is true whatsoever. None of it. I lived in and out of homes in the most Hispanic community in Wisconsin. None of that is true. None of that is true. By the way, Hispanic legal immigrants in Wisconsin despise illegal immigration almost more than any by-area demographic in the country. We're going to get back to some more big news in a second. We got to pick up the radio crew. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Go over now to Stephen Kent, who has decided to abandon his classic great cultural takes this week to bring you some of the wonderful Washington, D.C. culture up close outside Union Station, where there's a bit of a shindig going on. Stephen, tell us about it.
Hey, Tony, good to be with you this morning. Yeah, we came into D.C. just to see what's kind of going on with the National Guard and deployment of troops into the Capitol. I managed to find 4, 2 of which were holding iced coffees, but there is a little bit more excitement going on here at Union Station. We've got Congressman Al Green up front addressing an audience right now as protesters are about to take to the Capitol. This is Congress returning to session today, so there's going to be demonstrators at every office Capitol building, as well as the Capitol itself.
Oh, good. And this Al Green, this is the same one who said that he was going to impeach Trump for his dastardly deeds.
Dastardly deeds, yeah.
Yes.
Very much.
Excellent. So I've just noticed some of the amazing flaggage behind you. So you have the DC flag, yes. You have the Pride Progress, all of the different letters flag. And is that the American flag upside down? I was told that was really bad and you shouldn't do that.
That's just the way of things at Union Station right now. We also have a lot of Epstein demonstrators today as Congress is getting back into session. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie are going to be taking up legislation here this week to push forward the idea of releasing the Epstein files. So there's a lot of excitement around that issue here today.
So I just had kind of a final question here on the Union Station stuff specifically before I ask for the deep, good stuff. I was told that it was like a fascist wonderland now, and
with his military.
See, he's talking about taking over the cities with the military. I'm not seeing any National Guardsmen in the background. Aren't they supposed to be everywhere?
They are, but let me introduce you to a friend of mine. You know, one of the things that we've been learning today is that there's a lot of things that you can be afraid of in DC. But we've got here a giraffe. Excuse me, Epstein giraffe. Can we talk to you for a moment? You're on the Tony Kinnett show. We were wondering, what are you telling people about today with the Epstein files? I know there's a lot of music that you want to sing. Let's go. He's going to sing us a song.
Sing us a song. Oh, yes. Well, we do enjoy music here on the Tony Kinnett cast. I'm thrilled. What do you got?
All right, so what's happening? Music, right? Okay. What are your songs? All right.
How far are you?
Nope.
This editing and stuff, but the voice is clear and stuff. My songs, why?
Yeah.
Steve played. He was chasing around young girls.
And that's what's going on at Union Station. We have the giraffe here. He's about to take to Congress, right?
Yeah,
Well, he's speaking into the phone, but the funny thing is that the microphone's not picking him up. Maybe that's a good thing.
It probably is. All right, cameraman, come with me.
All right, so I'm really enjoying the Build-A-Bear support in Washington. The giraffe costumeage, and the harmonica. We got the thumbs up. We got people holding the posters that look like they were bought at Party City. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm. Some say these are fair weather fans. But I say no. I say that these are well-employed, hard-fought, brilliant activists, and I'm kind of laughing a little bit because the more I see the people behind you, the funnier it gets.
Yeah, well, it's just sort of the next chapter of we got a lot of old-age hippies out here who are very concerned with stopping fascism, but there is none to be seen that I've been able to find here in D.C. today. Again, there's hardly any troops in this city. And a lot of free speech happening on the streets of Washington. But right now, Congress is going to be taking up a bunch of stuff, Tony, on a wide range of issues, including the Epstein files, also keeping the government open. There's also some talk of energy policy moving through Congress this week.
Energy policy, man, that'll get the people with the signs out. I can't wait to hear about eco-fascism giving way to industrial fascism. There's so many fun new college words to learn, don't you think?
Always something new to learn. One of the issues that is getting a lot of cachet right now in Congress is the idea of energy liability, that we actually don't have enough resources to fuel a lot of the data centers and the energy projects that are going to keep American technology afloat and competitive against China in the century to come. And so what you might see in Congress is a pretty interesting idea, basically just sort of a liability protection for energy companies who are meeting the goals of the U.S. So there's been a big rash of lawsuits in state houses across the country suing energy companies for harm to future generations. And so this is one thing that you might see pick up in Congress here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be keeping close tabs on that.
Excellent. Well, Stephen Kent over from Not Just Geeky Stoics. We love having him on. He does excellent work at a whole lot of places. We'll include some of that stuff down in the description. My friends, stay safe out there, and let us know if you find any of that super duper ultra authoritarian fascism supreme trademarked.
We're on the lookout. Oh, look, I found 2 soldiers. There they are. The only 2 left.
Oh my goodness, the horror. I can see them walking and everyone cowering in fear. Well,
kids, don't be afraid of the 2 National Guard troops, not the guy in the giraffe suit. Remember that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The DC native next to the guy who drove in this morning from Alexandria in his pajamas. All right, we'll catch you real soon, man. Thanks for hopping by.
Thanks, Tony.
Now, on the Hill, this is where things get rather fun. First, Muriel Bowser has decided to issue an executive order. Again, Muriel Bowser, the Democrat mayor of Washington, D.C. Remember, the fascisms were going to come in. They were going to march right on through and stop all elections. It was just going to be horrible. I mean, the old saggy white lady from Berkeley told me so. And after all, I mean, when she reached into her hemp bag and pulled out the poorly written poster, I was convinced. She's only been right no times ever. But after the woman of about 75 who reeked of parental disappointment and weed stepped away momentarily, Muriel Bowser, the mayor, issued an executive order that has ordered all of the city's law enforcement officials to cooperate with any federal police indefinitely. And in this executive order, welcomed the President of the United States to provide additional security for the city. Now, Congress is expected to issue a 30-day extension. It's going to be really, really, really hard for the House and the Senate to knock down Trump keeping the National Guard in Washington, D.C., when the Democrat mayor of the city has admitted carjackings, homicides, grand theft autos, not so grand theft autos, all other kinds of weird minor crime like vandalism, minor assaults and batteries, attempted thefts. Those are all way down in the city. Why? Well, because the National Guardsmen, which I kid you not, the entire argument from people like Judd Legum, one of the left goobers over in the media sphere, complaining that there were 3 National Guardsmen just standing there not beating people up today. He said, this is a waste of money. No, that's what law enforcement is supposed to do in a safe city. They observe and continue ensuring that the city remains safe. We'll talk to Rob Bluey about that here in just a little bit. First, we have to get over to the National Guard block, and then, of course, what we talked about on Friday, the appeals court ruling on the Trump tariffs. That's going to get really hairy over the next couple of weeks. Radio crew will let you guys swing over to the commercial break. We're going to continue over on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, you may or may not remember a guy named Judge Charles Breyer. No, not the ice cream. But he looks like he should be working for an ice cream company. Old dude in a weird gray blazer that looks like he stole from Karine Jean-Pierre and a red bow tie. He has ruled that President Trump's use of the National Guard to protect federal buildings and make sure that ICE agents weren't getting hit with flying chunks of concrete, that use is unlawful, that he's not allowed to do so. So very interesting. He filed this early on September 2nd. I got to be honest with you. I've read through the entire decision. I've looked through what this Clinton appointee has tried to argue as to why the chief executive is unable or is not allowed under the Constitution to deploy U.S. federal troops to protect U.S. federal agents upholding federal law in a constitutional manner. There's nothing here that's going to hold up to scorn of the appeals court or the Supreme Court. None of it. The president, because of the nationalization of the National Guard, the federalization as well, all of the acts in the 1930s forward set the precedent for the president of the United States to maintain control of the National Guard. That is just the way it is. The idea that some Clinton appointee is going to swoop in a month and a half later and try to rip away the National Guard from President Trump, I'm sorry, that's not going to go over very well. And additionally, the Supreme Court of the United States is expected to weigh in a lot sooner rather than later on the tariff situation out of the Court of Appeals. President Trump spoke on this today. Check it out.
My question is, I suspect you're going to appeal that all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, we already have, yeah. In fact, we're doing something else. We're going to be going to the Supreme Court, we think, tomorrow, because we need an early decision. I mean, look, the financial fabric of our country, we're a rich, incredible country right now, and we're able to, other countries use tariffs on us for years, and we never did. I did a lot during my first term, but then we had COVID and we had to focus on other things. You couldn't be tariffing Italy, Spain, France, as they were dying by the thousands and millions. But we did with China, and China paid us billions and billions of dollars. And I started the process, but then I had to end it a little bit because of COVID. We focused on that. But no, it's a very important decision. And frankly, if they make the wrong decision, it would be a devastation for our country. We've taken in trillions of dollars. And by the way, all these countries signed agreements. As an example, they're all happy. Everybody's happy. But some whack job put in a lawsuit. It went before a very liberal court, and the liberal court ruled, it was 11, they ruled 7-4. With one of the most liberal of them all voting in our favor because they're patriots. I think I give tremendous credit to that judge.
So what does this all mean for the next couple of weeks? Well, the tariffs are in fact in place until this decision gets appealed. And then if not, then that will continue to around October 14th until there might be a final appeal, which is made. That's kind of the cutoff date that Judge Ice Cream set in place. Another judge with an equally silly name, Judge, I believe Sparkle from Trinidad, that's the individual's name, signed a kind of like an emergency injunction kind of block. It's kind of a mix between the two. It's a very weird place to be in. Suggesting that the Trump administration could not send over 30 Guatemalan children back to their parents in Guatemala. We're going to be talking about that and a whole lot else. A lot of news breaking. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Don't go anywhere.
Is the Tony Kinnett Cast.
It started with the whisper.
So, with all of the federal injunctions and throwings around at the courts, Congress is now wading back into the swamp of the U.S. Capitol after their lovely little August recess to dive into yet another budget fight and a continuing resolution. Now, I'm going to level with you right here, right now. We've already had a lot of budget fights and continuing resolutions and rescission interests. The Trump administration is looking to do a foreign aid, almost $5 billion pocket rescission. I can say this. There are two things that are essentially true right out the gate. Number one, some kind of deal, some way, shape, or form, somehow is going to come through with Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, getting it through a narrow majority. The Senate might water it down a smidge. It will pass. It will make it to the president's desk. Why do I say that? Because, yeah, it's happened before. You've heard this song and dance. We've all heard this song and dance. Now, at this particular point in time, it's going to get a little bit hairy for the Democrats if they try to force some type of government shutdown. We are now within breathing distance of the big campaign swing of the midterm elections. And I have told you that you are in the throes of announcing retirements. We talked about Senator Jody Ernst of Iowa, no longer going to be running for re-election. Now Representative Nadler, that's right, the man whose pants go up to his forehead, is also retiring. It's going to be an interesting midterm. Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, they have no political capital, none. They have no goodwill with the American people. They have no active policies that Americans support. They have no active stake in anything in the country of value to the rest of them. And really, it's so awkward now that Illinois can't even go through with gerrymandering because there's nothing left to gerrymander. So what do the Democrats have? Well, they have now called for bipartisanship, which is freaking hilarious. That now, just now, after calling every single Republican in the country a hate-filled, homophobic, transphobic, fascist, bigoted Nazi. All of the sudden, out of the magnanimous nature, magnanimous, oh so magnanimous, of Hakeem Jeffries, and the wise, shrewd kindness of Chuckles Schumer. Now they're ready to come out and be bipartisan. That's really freaking funny. And again, as we continue to progress through this year for the Trump administration, he has been able to maintain momentum. The Democrats have not been able to get any momentum going whatsoever. And in their most desperate moments, they've turned to like the Epstein files. And that ain't working out so well either, because now the House Oversight Committee, right before the show, has chucked out, I believe, over 32,000 images, 33,000 images and documents related to the Epstein situation. And of course, I'm sure that looking through that will be I'm not even going to begin to speculate on what's in those particular releases. We'll get to them when we get to them. But if Democrats think that's going to be the move, yeah, I don't think so. However, if we're actually going to dig into this particular instance, a closer look at the Hill is very, very necessary. You know, guys, sometimes I feel like I may be the only guy that's not in Washington, D.C. So while Stephen Kent was in Union Station dealing with, well, you know, the guy in a giraffe onesie, Rob Bluey, our president of the Daily Signal, was walking by the gaggle, the fiasco, the bold protest of old hippies. Rob, you didn't get any of that smell on you, did you?
No, they were quite noisy. I stayed as far away from them as I could, Tony. But I'll tell you, I have not taken the metro in Washington, D.C. in a number of years. And over the course of the last couple of weeks, with the increased presence of law enforcement, you know, I feel comfortable. And so I was coming from the Westin, which is where the National Conservatism Conference is taking place, kicked off this morning, and I was coming back to our office, which is just a few blocks from Union Station. And so, yes, the protesters were there to make all sorts of noise. And as Stephen reported, you know, they probably aren't going away anytime soon. This is something that's here to stay as long as Donald Trump's in Washington, D.C.
That's one of the things I wanted to talk about, that things that are here to stay facet of politics. For the first time in 10, 20, 25 years, maybe, we're seeing people involved deeply again in politics. The average American is really starting to pay attention, really more than they have since the end of the Cold War, which is 35 years ago, and I'll be moving on from that. So along that lines, that brings us to the National Conservatism Conference. Of course, Dr. Roberts spoke there this morning. I believe you're speaking on Thursday. A lot of energy around conservatism and where it's going. Tell us about it.
Yeah, in fact, picking up on that point that you just made about people being more involved in politics, I mean, you can look at national conservatism. This is NatCon 5, so this is a conference that has not been going on for decades. It's a relatively new thing created by Yoram Hazony, who wrote the book, The Case for Nationalism. He is a Jew himself, but as he spoke about in his remarks today, the remarkable thing about the National Conservatism Conference are the multiple different religions, ideologies, people who are represented at this conference. They don't necessarily come from the same line of thinking. And Yoram gave some opening remarks today. And Tony, just to briefly sum up what he had to say, he said that there's a lot of fighting that takes place, particularly among the online right, and dissatisfaction with Donald Trump. And he's quite frankly displeased with how things have turned out. He is excited to wake up every day because of who's in office and what he sees Trump doing. And he says that those on the right who are nitpicking every little decision are doing Trump a disservice and doing a bigger disservice to J.D. Vance in the future. So he really said he wanted the conference this year to focus on building a stronger coalition. That doesn't mean that they're setting aside debates. He said that they'll have a lot of foreign policy panels, and there will be people who are pro-Israel and maybe critical of Israel. There will be other things about the Trump doctrine where they like the direction things are going, and they may dislike other aspects of it. But he really is intent on building a bigger and more successful coalition because he thinks that that's the only way that conservatives will be successful in politics going forward.
I mean, I think that's the key. We've talked about this on the show before, the idea of being thankful, not just to a particular person, not to particular politicians, but some of these fights, especially, my coming from the cultural and the education space, we've been fighting these things tooth and nail for over a decade, some of them multiple decades. And so to actually be in a place where there is some victory won, you can be thankful for that. Again, you don't have to cast your thanks to anyone. You don't have to bow down and kiss any rings. But part of the national conservatism movement is understanding that the common American, through the embracing of traditional values, traditional free markets, and open understanding of, again, these traditional norms that have governed society in America for centuries, those do in fact bring results. And that's one of the last things I wanted to pivot to with our short time here. Congress is back in session. Recess is over. Everyone's been on their beaches all over, taking their little vacations. Look, some of us, we actually work regardless whether or not Congress is in vacation or recess. So what are you expecting now here? I know you came back from NatCon right next to the Hill. What's going on?
Yeah, it's a different vibe. It's September. You see people who are coming dressed in t-shirts and jeans, all of a sudden, sporting a three-piece suit as they walk into the Senate and House office buildings today. And there's a lot of work to be done, quite frankly. The federal government runs on a fiscal year that ends September 30th. And so that means on October 1st, they need to have the spending plan in place. And right now, Congress has been working toward passing appropriations bills, but they're not really in a position where they can have the confidence that they're going to get all 12 appropriations bills done. And if they don't, Tony, you know this as well as anybody, they're going to have to resort to that age-old thing called the CR, the continuing resolution.
And I'm going to have to stay up until 2 a.m, not getting the top news in 10 done, waiting for them to cast their final votes, pestering all of these offices. Can you give me the scoop? Can you give me the scoop? Can you give me the scoop? I will ask this, though, because you deal with a different kind of question all the time. You go on to panels on networks that I'm surprised might have you on, and you're asked the same question. Rob, do you really think Mike Johnson's going to be able to hold it together this time? You've been asked this 26 times. So I will ask you for the 27th time, do you think Speaker of the House, Representative Mike Johnson, is going to be able to pull things through this time?
Yeah, I think that he probably will. I'm not sure what form he's going to. Tony, well, he's just had a track record of success. I'm not sure what form it's going to take, though, honestly, because even if the House gets the appropriations bills done, there's no assurance that the Senate will be able to do the same. And obviously, you need both. You need both chambers to get it done, right? Exactly.
Of course not. We're not sure all of the details, but I am getting a little bit weary's not the way. I'd say exasperated. Like my daughters come up and ask me for a cookie for the 18th time, and it's like I've already given you the answer. The man works in small majorities. Let's get into the nitty and the gritty of what the Senate will, bring to bear. And for that, we'll have to bring you back next week because I want to pick your brain about all of these retiring. You've got Nadler, you've got Ernst from Iowa. You've got like some stuff in the next campaign to get to, but we'll catch you for that later. Rob Bluey, Daily Signal. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tony.
We'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Radio folks will continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. And now this brings us over to a few things I've been looking forward to sharing with you all day. I have been excited to share with you some of the most perhaps self-unaware clips that currently exist in public view. This would be Representative Tim McBride, Sarah, as he goes by when he's wearing a dress, from Delaware in the House of Representatives. He's decided that even if the rest of the Democrat Party, they don't have any idea what they're doing, they're going to hold little intifada, rallies in Detroit saying how they need to destroy American exceptionalism, even if they're going to defend crime in Chicago and defend illegal immigration in California and Wisconsin and then, of course, Illinois. Well, he's got the plan here. His announcement, his bold strategy is saying that Republicans hate children and babies. Oh, man, here you go.
Republican leadership is throwing a temper tantrum.
I'm so sorry. The person throwing a fit because they couldn't use the bathroom that they wanted, saying others are throwing a temper tantrum. I'm sorry, sir. Sir, please continue.
They just canceled votes for the rest of the week, shutting down the floor of the House of Representatives for the next several days, all in an effort to stop the House from allowing new parents in Congress to vote by proxy so they can spend time with their new babies or recover from childbirth. Over the last several months, there has been a bipartisan effort to allow new parents in Congress to spend time with their new babies. And
by the way, this is extremely disingenuous, given that it's like one or two Republicans. And by the way, voting by proxy would not be a very good thing. And here's the excellent case to be made against it. you do realize that there are situations in which we have had dead representatives, MIA, no idea where they are, and they just find them in a nursing home. Like weeks late, just like way out of the way, no idea. Yeah, I don't want some staffer casting a vote for a representative because they can't be there. And you say, well, what about parents and, their children? Again, I am all, as a conservative, all in favor of young families. And I'm all in favor of having families while you are a representative. But while you are a representative, you made the commitment to be in the House. If you cannot handle the responsibility of being in the House, you shouldn't be in the House. I used to play for a jazz orchestra. When I got too busy to attend the practices and the performances, I stopped being in the jazz orchestra. Why? Because I made the commitment to be there. If I can't fulfill the commitment, I shouldn't be there. Why is this so difficult? Well, the guy doesn't even know what he is, I guess so. Saying, why doesn't he understand this is a little unfair.
To vote by proxy. House Republican leadership has tried to stop this effort every step of the way.
Man, the crew that doesn't want you to show voter ID doesn't understand why Republicans might be wary of the voting by proxy thing. Oh, gee, wow.
Today, they actually just lost a vote trying to prevent proxy voting from coming to the floor. And because they lost that vote, they're taking their ball and going home. They're canceling all of the votes moving forward this week. Now, granted, what they were putting on the floor for the rest of the week is not good stuff. So we should be grateful that the harm is reduced. But it's amazing that the Republican Party, which used to pride itself on being pro-family, is so anti-baby, so anti-family, so...
Yes. The individual who believes that children shouldn't have genders until they decide for themselves, the individual who believes that children should be forced to read pornography in schools, they know that the real bad guys, that's, Republicans. All right, we got to bring the radio crew back. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
I love when there's just a little bit of housekeeping. Believe it or not, yeah, sometimes when you're a host and there's a long weekend, you get to choose the best of the best to share with the audience when you get back. And this is probably one of the most chef's kiss kind of moments that we could craft for you together. Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve member of the Board of Governors, she's screwed. She's screwed for a couple of reasons. Number one, because she allegedly committed mortgage fraud. Number two, because she allegedly committed mortgage fraud again. Number three, because she's someone who is in charge of deciding the interest rates that will govern other people's mortgages. Again, I kind of have a bit of an issue with someone who is in the practice committing that particular crime just a little bit more, and then being given political authority over it, which I have enough problems with the Federal Reserve as it is. But now, I'm looking forward to sharing this with you guys. Now, the U.S. Director of Federal Housing has released video, what he calls video proof. This is from the independent journalist Charlie LaDuff on Lisa Cook's primary address from her second mortgage of her third home. Try to keep track of all of that. Video evidence of her renting that primary, residence out so she could make a little bit of that money. This is exciting stuff.
Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook has 3 homes and big troubles. She claimed to the banks that she lived at all of them, but real estate records show she listed 2 of them for rent. That's not legal. So Lisa must be living here in Ann Arbor at the 3rd house, right?
The door's dirty. There's a key lockbox right there.
A key lockbox? I always keep a by combination key lockbox on all non-real estate, residential properties that I, thumber in. Producer Nick?
I mean, what if you forget your keys? What if you lose them down the drain?
That's true. What if you lose your keys down the drain? That's some hard hitting. That's some hard hitting evidence right there.
She did mortgage fraud. She probably is very prone to losing her keys.
That's true. If you forget which house you list as your primary address, you probably aren't finding your key very, very easily. So that video is excellent. By the way, Lisa Cook's sorority has now stepped in to defend her, which is hilarious. Allow me to explain why. So one of the biggest arguments that has been levied at the Democrats in the last couple of decades is that they stand for individuals because of their gender, their sex, and because of their color. And so if you don't hire an individual, it's because, and it happens to be a black person or a woman, then you hate them because you're racist and you're sexist and you don't like them. Grr, very terrible. Instead of, hiring people based on the skills that they have and the character that they have. So they have decided to make, they being the Democrats, have decided to make a major case over Trump suggesting Lisa Cook vacate her position. And the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, which is a sorority that is limited to, obviously a sorority, ladies, black ladies, because of course, have suggested, and I quote, Dr. Lisa D. Cook was vetted, confirmed, and is uniquely qualified to serve on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Well, I'll grant you that. She's got more experience with variable interest rates than just about anybody. Undermining her role is not just about one individual. Here it is. It's a threat to the independence of the Federal Reserve and carries grave economic implications for families and communities. Hey, I'm the head of a family who's got a mortgage, and you know what I have never committed? Mortgage fraud. I don't really give the flip of a wooden nickel if someone is prosecuted for committing mortgage fraud. You know why? Because I've never committed mortgage fraud. I don't care. And by the way, and I know there are some who are even on maybe perhaps my side of the aisle who have suggested they think this is like political hunting. No. This is one of the things that the elite in power who understand how dishonest you can be at the right times can work to profit you financially. And as long as no one ever looks at your record, you'll probably get off scot-free. I don't like it. I don't like it when people who are poor manipulate the food stamp system in order to make money off the back of the American taxpayer. I don't like it when people who are far wealthier than I am utilize mortgage fraud to make money off of the American taxpayer. I don't like it when people who are in my tax and income bracket lie on their taxes in order to make money off of the American taxpayer. Maybe I just don't like financial crime that makes money off the back of the American taxpayer. What a freaking crazy idea. I know, but alas, just expressing my pain. And as former First Lady Michelle Obama says, black women are not allowed in society to express their pain. And as a guy who identifies as a black woman, I know I'm very brave. I have like 3 or 4 stripes on the pride flag. I just wanted to share that pain with you guys for a second here. Speaking of pain, Jasmine Crockett has come under fire yet again because her accent is getting more comical. So I received a couple of fun messages because I had suggested that it was a little impossible for me to do the Matthew McConaughey accent, a little bit of twang. And I had suggested Lightning McQueen in conjunction with that. It was Owen Wilson, wow, who did the voice of McQueen, not Matthew McConaughey. But as a former voice actor, a guy who enjoys accents and impressions, you can lean into the accent too much and it ruins it. And when you lean into the accent too much and you run for office, you're either Hillary Clinton or Jasmine Crockett, who I will remind you grew up in a private school in St. Louis and this is from an August 17th video. So it's not like bright new, but it's just now circulating. Jasmine Crockett has decided to lean into a very interesting way of practicing Ebonics, as we would say in the education field. Here you go.
First of all, it's good to see you in the new year.
By the way, this is Jasmine Crockett's old accent first.
No one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now it looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress. Maybe because these people, they are.
I'm sure you couldn't tell the difference. Here is the overly indulged accent.
I would be running for Congress. Maybe because these people, they are crazy because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers, interns, all the things. Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it. I'm telling you. And the wives is being messy and petty. They putting it in.
Okay. So we shared on the last show that the founder, the current CEO of BET, Black Entertainment Television, has just given a $500,000 donation to Winsome Earl Sears of Virginia, the gubernatorial candidate. I would like to point out there is a particular BET executive who wished to remain off the record, who stated that Jasmine Crockett's accent appears to be so bastardized that even Tyler Perry's Medea movies would be considered artful Oxford language in comparison. Oh my goodness gracious. The burn that would leave is downright radioactive. I love watching her speak. It's a shame that her congressional seat is going away because, man, I'm going to miss her. I'm going to miss her.
As a proud identifying black woman, do you believe that you should transition your accent to be more similar to Jasmine Crockett's?
I've thought about it. There's actually a dear, sweet old lunch lady that had an accent that she would cackle that when I would imitate. I'm not going to do that here on the air. Instead, I'm going to say fine farewell to our radio side of the audience. We're going to continue over on the live stream. Take care. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. All right. I think I timed that right. Yes, I think so. All right. So on the rest of the news side of things, before I start getting into accents that might get me in a smidgen of trouble, President Trump is alive. I know, over the weekend, you may have missed it because you touched grass and spent time with your family. All of these journalists, so-called, have been running with this narrative that J.D. Vance is getting ready to orchestrate some type of coup at the White House because he suggested that if something happened to the president, he was ready to take over, otherwise known as being the vice president. Wow. And that also being the vice president was like good on the job training. That's correct, because the vice presidential role is not like any other role in history. So again, LMAO, they decided to take this and say they hadn't seen Trump in 48 hours, which just may be, again, one of the most insanely unself-aware, self-unaware, whatever we're going to call that, just blind. We're talking Helen Keller looking in the mirror. We're talking wildly unself-reflective, whatever we're gonna put in here. The idea that after years of Biden being a straight-up corpse, never seeing him at any press conferences whatsoever, Trump has spoken to the media almost every single day in his administration so far, with like one or two exceptions. The man's still going out and playing golf, which is not just something that anyone cruises out and does all the time. At least you don't, I would think, at that particular age, 79, I believe. And also, our friend of the show, Reagan Reese from the Daily Caller, just did a 90-minute interview with the president on Saturday. So the argument that the president was dead was really funny when he showed up to golf with his granddaughter, Kai, at the golf course, I believe, the National Golf Course over in Virginia. It does get a little bit better moving forward because then you actually get Trump responding to whether or not he's dead. This is Peter Doocy asking this. Peter Doocy has a knack for asking the right question at the right time. This is one of them.
Trump, something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see you for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really? I didn't see that. I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors.
That would be the Daily Caller's Reagan Reese.
I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend. They also knew I went out to visit some people at the club that I own, pretty nearby on the Potomac River. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend.
It's just hilarious. It is. And the kind of the journalistic crew over on social media, people like Laura Rosen reporting on foreign policy, who for years never said a word about the health of the president, was all over social media today saying, oh, the president, he's high as a kite right now, clearly all hopped up on medication. To which I then, pointed out from my humble, Indiana abode that this is really transparent and is going to convince absolutely zero Americans, or exactly zero Americans to be more grammatically correct. And then she deleted the tweet. The media atmosphere, the media ecosystem over on the left has no idea what to do right now. They don't know whether to focus on the Israel-Palestine, globalize the intifada thing. They don't know whether to capitalize on the socialism thing, which has AOC very, very upset. They don't know whether to capitalize on the racial thing, which has really nothing to gain from it, because the suburban class is currently watching what would be the first black governor who was a lady in the country be a Republican, who is gaining on her, whatever, Spanburger up in Virginia. There's nothing at all at this point that I think is available for them to coalesce around. We talked about this with Victor Davis Hanson. It's really wild to see. And what pokes even more holes in their Titanic drifting towards the iceberg is that you do have a couple of senators and representatives, in this case, like John Fetterman, who's pointed out, I know that Gavin Newsom has been running around saying Trump wouldn't be invested in remodeling parts of the White House or adding a ballroom if he wasn't planning on staying forever. Clearly, he's setting himself up to be a fascist king. Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, Senator Fetterman, when he was asked about this again, now that Congress is back from recess, he says what a lot of Americans are thinking. Yeah, I don't care.
Even completed it anyway. And I think everything that I've seen, the plans are going to be done in a tasteful and historical kind of a way. I mean, they're not putting in a Dave and Buster's kind of a situation here.
Dude, a White House Dave and Buster's? I'd go to that. I would. Chuck E. Cheese, old Charles Cheese, who was arrested in Florida in a powdered wig. Oh man, dude, I'd be there for that. That's what the White House needs, a good child casino right before we send the kids back down to the mines. I hear you. Anyway, Fetterman.
I think upgrading some of these facilities seems pretty normal overall. I don't have a strong opinion on it, but it's not a point where I'm going to freak out or make some kind of weird demandings or have a hearing on it.
If he self-funds it and gets some donations from the private sector, would you be okay with that?
I think if it saves the American taxpayers much more too, I think that's fine. But regardless, it's an investment on the White House, and that's probably won't even be close to finished by the time he even leaves the office.
I mean, yeah, man makes a solid point. Let's hear what the other Democrats are making as their solid points.
Every genocide enabler, look at this room's mothers. We ain't going anywhere.
Yes, queen, yes. It wasn't until the obese Palestinian with the wagging jowls in her wrapped keffiyeh that she swapped out last week from the Kunta Kinte scarf from George Floyd. She just understands me. Oh, wonderful. Excellent. Please, double, triple, quadruple down on this nonsense. I love every little bit of it. Because at the end of the day, and I do want to make this clear, at the end of the day, there is a self-reflection from the Trump administration that when you boil down to it, being tough on crime, being tough on illegal immigration, and recognizing that the kind of mean tweets thing doesn't matter anymore, and that going all in on the social media thing may not be the best idea. Yeah, that's effective with the American people. Trump did, in fact, state this afternoon, quote, sometimes taking away someone's ability to use a phone is a good thing. Sometimes if it happened to me, it would be a good thing, end quote. That's some self-awareness the Democrats just do not have. Democrats don't make fun of themselves ever, ever. During the Obama administration, if you made fun of Barack Obama, you could expect a visit from Hillary Clinton. And the gun that you would commit suicide with, 14 shots in the back of the head. Never seen anything like it before. But now, with the Trump administration, again, South Park released the episode that made fun of, Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and they just leaned into it. It took Kristi Noem a couple of minutes, but she finally, got around to it. And it's that kind of not taking yourself way too seriously at the end of the day. Now, during the heat of the day, yeah, you may say some things that are a little awkward and bumbly. J.D. Pritzker will never, ever make a joke that includes him as a punchline. For one, it's a really big punchline. Number two, again, I'm watching all of these news stories come out, even when the Trump administration is fighting federal judges, is suggesting mobilizing the National Guard to protect federal buildings in heavy crime cities. When you're looking at redistricting fights, when you're looking at the very rapidly evolving economy and foreign policy situations, you're not seeing the American people see everything as gloom and doom because they've heard this one before. The left spent 4 long years and then 4 more long years suggesting that Trump's mean tweets were going to kill us all. And then it didn't happen. Producer Nick.
The lack of control that they currently have over the media narratives has really damaged their control over the narrative itself in general. You see X stopped restricting Donald Trump, and then as well as Truth Social, he got the message out to the voters directly. You have the CBS and Paramount lawsuits.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that on the Tony Kinnett cast because that was the top news in 10 thing. That's right. CBS got caught over the weekend on CBS Face the Nation. They got caught editing Kristi Noem, Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. They got caught editing her entire interview.
And not just he would bring it up.
Yeah. And not just cutting it out early and then, which would be bad enough because she was talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but she also continued talking. They cut in and out to make her say different things. It's one of the it's one of the most egregious forms of malpractice that we've seen, since
it brings into question how long this has been happening. I mean, now we know about it because they're being caught because we're keeping the receipts now and the American people are keeping them accountable. But before this, how long has this charade been going?
I mean, we made the case over on, again, not just, earlier talking about the Kamala Harris thing, but we made the case over with the, over with the Joe Biden when they were editing certain things. This has clearly been going on now for a very, very, very long time. And when they begin to make these kind of stretches, they're never going to have any trust again. You think now that they've been sold to Skydance, they are going to do everything they can to prevent this stuff from happening again. And yet here they were. We actually got the clip. Here it is.
And the one thing that we will continue to do is to make sure that he doesn't walk free in the United States.
So right now what you can see is they shared this in kind of an interesting way on social media. They have the clip that aired on CBS down at the bottom, and then the uncut response at the top. Will continue speaking in just a second.
States of America. This individual.
So now they've cut. Let's hear what they've aired. They cut out. This is what they've cut out.
Was a known human smuggler, MS-13 gang member, an individual who was a wife beater, and someone who was so perverted that he solicited nude photos from minors, and even his fellow human traffickers told him to knock it off. He was so sick in what he was doing and how he was treating small children. So he needs to never be in the United States of America, and our administration is making sure we're doing all that we can to bring him to justice.
Cutting out various little select pieces and then jumping back in and then moving back out and making it appear as though she's done and the interview is going to cut in and then the nodding. That is ridiculously dishonest. And yet they've done it again and again and again and again and again. And they deserve every single ounce of scorn. Also because you have guys like, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, who, again, him thinking he's got like a big, bright political future is just hilarious. Saying, he really wants everyone to, cheer on Trump dying.
You get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things, and although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
Oh, I know that you guys are disappointed about, Trump not dying, but there will be someday. Smiles. Just had a major school shooting in Minneapolis, and he's out there saying, I just wish people would, drop dead. Incredible. Truly incredible how they don't see this is not helpful to them. They have a lot of congressional seats to win. These aren't just gubernatorial elections. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them have off-year gubernatorial elections as well, or presidential year gubernatorial elections. They don't have the presidential to lean on. These are all going to be fought in the congressional districts of every single state. And a lot of key Senate races as well. Wild move by Walz here. Producer Nick?
Well, it's no wonder why we saw in the recent pollings that Democrats have no hope in the future and direction of America. They're fed such negativity in the sense where their one hope politically is the death of their competitors. They're literally preying on the demise of their competition. They're not providing any hope for the future. Literally, they have 0%. And then some of the polls about the independents. It's no wonder why the independents aren't there for them either. You have a story of doom and gloom continually fueling everything. That's just not something to buy into.
And this comes directly for Minnesota as well. Tina Smith, the Democrat, was incumbent in Minnesota. She is, again, other than Klobuchar, she is the senator from Minnesota, Senator Smith. She's currently not running for re-election. So that seat is open. That is, again, Minnesota is a lot closer than people believe. Now, there are also, and this is where I will definitely disagree, Harry Enton over on CNN usually has a pretty accurate reading of the polls. And two of the opinions that he has on kind of some danger signs for Republicans comes out of Winston Sears' race in Virginia and then a race over in New Jersey. I don't particularly agree with him. First of all, though, he makes, again, he's made this point. We've played this clip before, but I want to play it again. The difference from Democrats and Republicans on things like crime, just as well as illegal immigration before.
Democrats have to get it around their heads that Americans are far more hawkish on crime than they think that they are. What are we talking about? Trump's net approval handling crime. Where was he last year? He was way underwater at minus 13 points views of term number one. But look at where he is now. He's on the positive side of the ledger. He's on the positive side at plus 1 point. Americans view Trump far more favorably now on crime than they did a year ago. Donald Trump is like Air Jordan towering over Joe Biden when it comes to their handling of crime. Look, in 2024, look at where Biden's net approval was on crime. Way underwater there at minus 26 points. It was one of Biden's worst issues. Granted, pretty much every issue was one of Biden's worst issues.
Now, this is where I will disagree with some of his polling analysis here. He says there are two major kind of danger zones for Republicans in New Jersey and then in Virginia. I might agree with him a smidgen on New Jersey and then not at all on Virginia.
I would say that these two races are the biggest flashing red siren signs for Republicans. Why is that? Let's take a look right now at the prediction market odds in both New Jersey and in Virginia.
I hate prediction market odds. I freaking hate prediction market odds. I can't stand them. Stop this. Well, Polymarket says over here and this other betting platform, I can't stand them. I know you like them a little bit more than I do. I can't, because it's betting on an outcome is not the same as contributing to a poll, which does have some science and math behind it, although it can be skewed and crapified. I don't like this. I get why he's doing it. I understand. I don't like it at all.
And in both cases, the Democrats are favored. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, 89% chance of winning according to the prediction markets. How about Abigail Spanberger in the great Commonwealth of Virginia? We're talking a 94% chance of winning. I was looking at the polling data as well. The Democrats in both these races hold high single-digit leads. Obviously, Glenn Youngkin, currently the Republican governor of Virginia, was able to win there. And in New Jersey, the Democrats barely squeaked by back in 2021. Right now, the polling leads in both those states are larger for the Democrats. They're in better position than they were back in 2021. That's why in both cases, the Democrats are heavily favored. And as I said earlier on, to me, this is a flashing red siren warning sign for Republicans.
No, I disagree. Now, I want to explain why. So in the previous election for Virginia's gubernatorial race, I will remind you that the Terry McAuliffe versus Youngkin campaign, it was right up until the election that Terry McAuliffe was well in the lead against Youngkin. Now we're seeing kind of the same thing. So lots of different polls that are coming in with wildly different things. So I believe that Social Strategies has Abigail Spanberger up 12 points to Winsome Earl Sears 41. There are a couple of other polls that suggest it's 48 to 43 Spanberger. Again, various polls leaning in wildly different ways. SoCal edition, there's a new Echelon poll that has kind of the same stuff here. At the end of the day, what does this mean? It's not likely that a Republican is going to trend according to the data that we have. Now, is it a safe bet for Sears? No, I don't think so. I think that, Sears needs to run all the way to the end. I think Spanberger, the more she's getting kind of comfortable suffering from some Hillary Clinton optimism, the more she's liable to make mistakes. Election is not here yet, and Sears is gaining some momentum in the polls. As for New Jersey, though, I'm sorry, I don't see it. The idea that New Jersey is ready to flip really heavy blue here, again, could it happen? Yeah, I don't see these as big red warning signs, though.
But I mean, the story that these two clips put together, what are these people running on? You have Brandon Johnson and Pritzker trying to tell you that, and a few other Democrats, saying that crime is just something that happens in cities. States should not get help from the federal government to protect their citizens from crime. People don't believe that. They see DC, they see safety, they see law and order, and they know it can be for them. What are these Democrats going to run on?
So the answer to the question is most firmly said, and they want to run campaigns and candidates that are just against the opponent. Come out and vote against the Republican here. The problem, and we've said this before, going to vote is like going to the DMV. It sucks. It's annoying. It is not an enjoyable experience. It takes way longer than it should. Doing DMV stuff by the mail, people don't trust it by and large. And so if you go to vote, it's like going to the DMV. So therefore, as a candidate, you have to convince people to come out to vote for you. The presidential is really the only election where you can get people to come out and vote against someone. Midterms aren't like that anymore. They just aren't. They are rebukes for certain policies. But again, that's the point. Democrats aren't really running for anything. Trump isn't scaring people at this point. Republican Congress isn't really scaring anyone at this point. So is the Virginia gubernatorial, again, an off-year election? Admittedly, something that is probably in election analysis for me, probably my weakest, because I have experience in monitoring special elections, and then of course the congressionals in general, and then of course the presidentials. But when it comes to off, the midterm flip or the off year like this one, kind of gubernatorial elections, they don't always have the same pull. State culture stuff is wildly different than national political issues. However, the nation is becoming increasingly nationalized in its politics. Whereas now I am far more likely to argue over politics with someone from Wyoming or Colorado or California or, God forbid, Connecticut than I am to argue with someone on state level policy within my own county or from the next county over.
And in playing with that, the rise of governors being national accountants. You have Gavin Newsom, you have Tim Walz, you have Ron DeSantis that are all painting pictures of their states at large. People are moving away from California. They're seeing how bad it is and how Gavin Newsom and his Democrats in that state are doing nothing. People are seeing Ron DeSantis run a state that's very successful, very safe, and is abiding by Trump's policies nationally. It's very appealing.
And again, that kind of appealing factor all comes down to who you can actually get out to vote. If you look at the protests, the big protest, remember, the Democrats have tried like clockwork. Once a month, the Democrats get extremely excited, and essentially they PMS. The P stands for protest, and they get out in front of the country, and they're like, "This is our No Kings protest. This is our hands off the streets protest. This is our don't touch the illegal immigrants protest. This is our we're gonna love healthcare protest every month. We're gonna fight for the DOE. We're gonna fight for the every single month. It's something different. It's the same theme though." And the protests are getting smaller. Now they have a bunch of old, mostly white hippies, overeducated, college, mostly women, and dudes in giraffe suits, furries, getting out in front of the country and saying they're mad. People aren't coming out for it. And if people aren't coming out for it, all Trump has to do to win the midterms with the Republicans, all he has to do is provide a booming economy all the way down to the consumer confidence level, which means that now we're in September. The next interest rate decision is going to change fundamentally the momentum of three things. The fundamental momentum of three things. The momentum of the Trump administration, of the Democrats and what they're able to argue or fight for or against. Because you're going to have people like again, I can't remember the guy's name, but the one representative from Maine, the Democrat that is constantly flaking to vote with Republicans on some tough votes. That's going to be a problem, especially as we get closer to midterms for the Democrats. Hakeem Jeffries does not have the cojones that Nancy Pelosi had to keep a caucus together. And it's fracturing more and more because as the youths fracture in the party, it's harder for them to develop any kind of momentum. This, again, Powell is a last key moment of momentum shift because it's going to determine the economy surging forward. He lowers the interest rates and the economy booms through September, enough to make it through some tariff uncertainty and maybe some trade instability as India and China are ironed out, and India will be ironed out, I guarantee it. You think Marco Rubio is not going to go over to India and settle things? Oh boy, you can already hear him leaning forward and muttering in his Cuban accented English or Spanish when no one is around. I'm looking forward to that. The third thing that all of the momentum will change is the bureaucratic momentum. If Trump gets what he wants here with lower interest rates, it will severely undercut federal judicial and the kind of bureaucratic malicious compliance and just outright saying no, like we've seen at the CDC. If that momentum is kind of clipped at the ankles, Lisa Cook's going to become a nothing. Now, they're going to run the story, just so you know. Here's a little future prediction here. If the interest rate is lowered, it is because Trump intimidated the Federal Reserve by going after Lisa Cook. That's what the narrative will be. Just letting you know so that we can cut this clip. Producer Daniel, mark it in thine notes on high to replay this clip when I'm right. If he doesn't lower the interest rates, you will see the country rally to Trump's side here. The Democrats cannot explain tariffs to the American people. Why? Because, well, tariffs in the 90s were like a Bill Clinton idea. It's a very populist union idea. They can't fight it. Bernie Sanders were advocating for tariffs not too long ago. And so, I mean, really, there's nothing they can do here. They're wedged between, a rock and whatever's in Tim McBride's skirt. It's a rough place for him, and I don't want to be there. So, anywho, those things said, I believe that you guys have got... we will talk a little bit more about the United Kingdom and some of the actual fascism that is going on over in Europe here pretty soon. I just wanted to get a little bit up to speed on some of the breaking news coming out this evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening with your family. It is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. Take care.